Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching or listening today. Absolute pleasure. Today I have a very, very special guest, Tyson Mochan, who it has won multiple titles, both as an amateur and professional in boxing. Silver medal at the Tampere Games in Finland, also Welsh champion, amateur champion as well, and has also won the Welsh and British titles for the Welsh Boxing Alliance. His last three fights have been back-to-back title fights, and in his last fight he defended both belts. It was a cracking fight. I was actually there to see it, luckily, as well. And today we're going to be talking about his life, his career, his background, future plans, quite a few different aspects of fighting and life in general. But first and foremost, champ, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on and really appreciate it, mate, as well. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, and obviously after the birth of your little one as well, I will give that a mention. Big congratulations at the time of this interview. Tyson's little one was born only yesterday, so big congrats on that, champ. So,
Pretty much.
starting at the beginning, then I think that's a good place to start as any. Obviously, you mentioned to me when we were planning this interview that you come from a traveling background, and that's sort of how you grew up. Now, obviously, I know that boxing, either gloved or often cases bare knuckle as well, is a huge factor in people growing up in traveling communities and whatnot. So, can you talk us through a little bit about how you got started in boxing and sort of where it all began for you, please?
Well, I was probably around, I just moved from a traveling community basically, and I moved into an house. And I was roughly around about 7, 8 years of age. I was always a bit boisterous, as they say. So, yeah, my mum and dad always used to find out I was fighting and whatnot with kids in the street. And he just said, well, if you're always fighting, just get into something that you're going to enjoy. If you're going to enjoy fighting, do it. So, I went up towards, like, it's in a little industrial estate. It's just up past one of my old houses. And there's just a couple of friends just messing around, hanging about. And we was looking across and I just see his boxing gym. A couple of doors up, there's a kickboxing gym as well. But I walked straight to the boxing gym. I didn't like kicking or anything like that, just like punching. So yeah, a couple of my mates us went in there. We went in, we had a chat to the coach. He invited us in actually the first day, and said, come in and train for free. If you like it, come back. And that's basically where it started. Never really looked back. Don't think I would actually look back either. I wouldn't turn it any other way. I actually love the boxing. So, but yeah, that's exactly where it started. From a youngster, always wanted to fight, and always ended up fighting.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, fantastic to get back to the beginning because, even though we'll talk about the future and we'll talk about other things, it's really good to get into that. Now, obviously, with your amateur career, you were very successful as well. I mean, I know we mentioned winning the Welsh novice title as well, and we mentioned obviously going over to Finland, and we were just talking about that, winning the silver medal there. And you had
Yeah.
some big accomplishments and a lot of fights as well. I mean, when we were planning for this, you said you only lost about four. But I'm not going to assume that those things were the highlights of your amateur career. Maybe they were, maybe they definitely were,
Well, I
but
would actually say that they was the highlights, actually, the losses,
they were
because if I didn't
okay.
have the losses, they wouldn't have made me as good as I actually did become. Because every
Yeah,
time I lost, it just drove me to be better. But when I was
yeah,
winning, it was like I never needed to get any better because obviously I was always winning. But when I lost, it just drove it into me head to get better.
yeah. Fair enough. Brilliant. So let's talk about a couple of those title wins as well, and just anything that you recollect from those days. Because even when I was at your last fight, by the way, and we'll get to that in a minute. Pro people were talking about, oh, Tyson, he was a top amateur and all that. So you hear these stories. So let's talk a little bit about your amateur highlights, starting with the Welsh title when you won that. What are your recollections from that? However many years later.
I
Obviously, and
think it
obviously as
was
a pro.
2012, that was the Welsh
Yeah.
title. Um, I fought another boy from another travelling background from Cardiff. Really nice boy, Joseph Price. Um, actually had the pleasure to fight him again after that fight in a rematch. Luckily, I got away with another win. But yeah, it was a really good fight, to be honest, especially coming from somebody else from another traveling background. So I mean,
Yeah.
just adds a little bit more to it. But yeah, really interesting fight. Like you said, you've seen it, seen clips and whatnot of it. But a really, really good, interesting fight. Obviously, two traveling boys going at it. It's going to be war.
100%, yeah, and it was a cracking fight. Anyone who hasn't seen it, check it out. It's on YouTube and it's there to watch. So brilliant. Now, obviously, you also went over to Finland. You won a silver medal, as we were talking about just now, with a number of other Welsh boys as well, and it was an absolutely cracking achievement. And before we get to your pro career, I want to give this one a mention because it's obviously it's a brilliant win. So same sort of thing. I mean, it's been a few years. You've had a few years for that to sink in and what have you. So what do you remember from that fight? Of anything you'd like to share with with the fans and everything?
I can actually remember quite a lot of actually being in Finland. Back in 2012, I could even tell you exactly what date we went on. We went on the 10th of May, 2012. It was a team of, I think, 6 of us went, or 7. I think it was like 2 boys from Port Albert Way, Connor McIntosh and Levi Griffiths. Levi is now in the program as well as Connor. There's 2 of my family members who went over with me also. Shane Thomas, very, very good amateur. Dino Smith was another one. Very, very good amateur boys. Never, I don't think Dino lost, and I think Shane only probably lost 1 or 2 fights. I think they've both had 30, 40 fights. So very good records themselves. And it was a pleasure actually to go over there with somebody I knew. Kept me a bit more comfortable while I was over there. Well, we got out there, I think it was on we got out there on the 10th, obviously flew over, got over there on the 10th. After we got over there, we settled into the hotel rooms. Then we had to go and do a weigh-in, obviously, same day. Obviously, check our weights, make sure it was roughly what weight category we was going to be fighting in and whatnot. And yeah, we come back from the venue, went back to the hotel. Obviously, I had to lose a bit of weight. So obviously, I was in the saunas and going for runs and whatnot. Still keep myself taking over while I was there. The second day, we went in then, we had a fight. 2 boys had a bye from the Welsh select. I fought a Russian champion. Kirill, something his name was, but not quite sure how to pronounce the second name. And yeah, I fought another Welsh opponent, one of the boys who actually went over with us in the final. And I think myself, I got robbed. To me, I felt like I won the fight hands down. Yeah, I felt I was robbed. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, but it's boxing. It actually happens in boxing.
Yeah.
It even happens right throughout the pros. So
yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's a brilliant achievement either way. I mean, we do know obviously a lot of these dodgy decisions they do go on, and probably more on the amateurs and in the program, or at least just as much. But it does happen. But still, silver medal is an incredible achievement. So definitely worth giving that a mention. Now, obviously, moving on to the pro game as well, because you've had a very exciting career so far, and I do say so far because obviously there's a lot more to come, and we'll get to that shortly. Sure. But looking back on the fights that you have had so far and everything, obviously winning the Welsh and British titles with the Welsh Boxing Alliance, and obviously defending them. And you've been in back-to-back title fights. Your last fight was taken on short notice, the title defense, a lot of things. But before we get to that, I want to give a mention to winning these titles. I mean, people always talk about the fight itself, but how did it feel to you, to become a champion? What goes through your mind when you win something like that, a big achievement like that?
Oh, it's absolutely massive to yourself, because obviously, if you're being told that you're going to fight just even a normal boxing fight, without being a title fight, you just absolutely train your nuts off, basically. So when somebody actually gives you the opportunity to say, you could become a champion by it, yeah, it actually gives that a little bit more drive. You should be driven anyway, especially in a sport like boxing. But when you're being told, oh, well, you could be champion by you. There's some good boys out there who've never become champion, as we know ourselves. So actually be part of that group who are actually champions is a bit of a privilege.
Love it. Brilliant insight into it as well. Now, a couple of other things before we get into the specific, fights themselves and all that side of things. You obviously mentioned training hard and training, physically, but there's another side to this that people often sometimes overlook, which is obviously the mental aspect of boxing. Now, I'm very interested in that, and like what goes into, through your mind on the run up to a fight, and how you sort of mentally prepare for war and to give it your all. Do you get nervous or anything like that, or are there any rituals you have before a fight, or just anything you'd like to say about it, really? On the run up to a fight.
Nervous. I wouldn't say nervous. Not nervous of actually the fight. The fight doesn't bother me.
Sure.
It's taking the loss if it happens that bothers me. Do you know what I mean? The fight. I could fight today and it would never even bother me. Wouldn't even faze me. But it's the fact of being in front of a crowd and losing. That's when it hits home.
Sure, brilliant. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I like to give a mention to the obviously the mental side, because people overlook it, and obviously now talking about the physical side of your training, your training regime and what you do. Obviously, I know people's training has been a bit has changed a bit with the pandemic and what have you for some people. But in general, can you sort of walk us through on a daily basis, what you do for training in terms of road work, sparring, any aspects you'd like to say about it, really? Anything you'd like to share just to give the fans an insight, because obviously they don't see you training, but I mean, they might do on social media, but they don't really see the day-to-day grind. So I want
Yes.
to give people a feel for what that's like, if you get where I'm coming from.
Well, I haven't really, to be honest, like since the pandemic have really happened, I haven't really been hitting the gym. Obviously, I've been trying to keep myself safe as well as my family, so I haven't really been going. Obviously, I've been a bit more bookings and whatnot as well, so I can't really be bothered with that fast. But yeah, as it goes to training, when I was actually boxing continuous, when I will be as well when the pandemic actually do finish, yeah, I'd like to get up roughly quite early in the morning, probably 7, 8 o'clock, go out, do a little bit of a run, maybe 3 mile, depending on how much work I'm going to do that week in the gym. I like to do roughly 3 to 5 mile in the morning. I'd come back home, shower, have a little bit of rest, a little bit of food, just keep me ticking over. And then I go back to the gym. Obviously, the gym was only literally a couple hundred yards up the road from where I was at the time. And yeah, I used to go up there. I'd spend hour, 2 hours up there, sort myself out, knacker myself basically till I was worn out, then leave to go home. I wouldn't leave unless I was knackered. I'm one of them type of ones, like, do you know what I mean? I like to be worn out. If I am not worn out, I haven't worked hard enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go back to the gym, finish the gym, I'd go home, I'd have a little bit of food again, probably have an half-hour sleep or something to try and get a little bit of rest in, obviously, because I was doing a lot. And then about 6, 7 o'clock in the night, our own sessions would start with everybody else in the gym. So then I would actually take part in them then as well. And also I would actually train the boys as well who was in there. So my coach actually liked me to be there to show them more or less the ropes and the learners and whatnot as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. Again, it's a really good insight, because one of the things I try and do with this is, obviously we talk about the fights, but I try and show the things that the fans don't see, so they can get a feel for what it's like,
Yeah.
because they obviously they see the fight, but they don't always see the build up and the this and that and all the other things that go on. So that's fantastic. Now, obviously, yeah, we touched on, how it feels to become champion and all that side of things and everything. I want to touch on toughest fights. Now, I don't mind if this is sort of as an amateur or as a pro. I mean, we can sort of cover all of it with this, but are there any fights that really stick in your mind as being, the toughest, hardest fights where you really had to,
Yeah.
dig deep?
There's one that I've always actually stuck in my mind, actually. It was I fought an actual Welsh opponent, Jordan Evans. I think he's from like my Stegway.
Mm.
Never got hurt in the fight. It was the loss that actually hurt me. But it was just the way that I actually boxed on the day, knowing how well I could have actually boxed, or how well I can actually box, to go in there and I put a terrible performance on. And that one always stuck in my head the most. But I can remember coming from the fight and he gave me a dodgy elbow and I put a little bit of a lump right above the eye.
Yeah.
And it was there for about 2 weeks and I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I kept looking at my face, I was thinking about the opponent. You know what I mean? It kept driving me insane. But I tried to get a rematch and the rematch never did come off. So, it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. But yeah, sounds like a tough fight for sure, And yeah, you never know. Maybe, I don't know what he's doing now, but maybe if he turns pro or something, there could be, another rematch on the cards. But
Oh,
I
definitely.
also want, yeah, you'll be gunning for him. So, you should watch out. So, all right then. Now we've talked about those couple of things. Now, your last fight to date, obviously I was there for this one. It was absolutely cracking show, outdoor show, really, really brilliant. And you took the fight on short notice, and it was a defense for both of your titles. So I want to give a little mention to that, about any recollections from the fight. I mean, it was a real war. It was really, really good back and forth, brilliant.
Yeah.
And obviously you defended both of your belts, and I know you also had the third belt with you as well, which I just want to chuck that one in there and talk about what that was. But yeah, anything you'd like to share about the fight, really, for people that weren't there and everything like that,
Yeah. Well, what it was, it was actually my coach who actually put the event on. And there's obviously a couple of boys who was on the show, obviously training in the same gym as I do. And if any boxing events are going on, any of the boys are fighting, I'm always here to support them like they are with me. So we were there for each other thick and thin. So yeah, I found out he was having a boxing show, and I obviously knew I wasn't going to fight on it. Well, thought I wasn't going to fight on it then. Say, and I told Ken, I said, I'll come over, obviously. I said, because I will support the boys. If you need a hand on the night with anything, I'm there to give you an hand. You know what I mean? So he said, yeah, he said, let's by all means come over. So he's obviously one person who's in the gym with me, training me quite a lot. Very, very nice boy. Nice little boxer. Jared Burgess from Cum. he fought on the same night. He fought an Irish opponent for a title, stopped him on the same night. But yeah, he's a very nice little Andy boy as well, like Jared and Ken. So yeah, I phoned Ken and I just told him, like, I said, yeah, I'd be over or whatnot. I mean, I will support the boys no matter what. So I've got over there and I actually took my kit with me because I just had a little bit of a feeling that something would actually kick towards a fight on the night. A bit of a stupid idea, obviously, for myself. I haven't trained for 16 months, obviously, with the pandemic and whatnot. But as a fighter, you fight. So yeah, I got there. Obviously met a couple of people I already know through boxing, spoke to them, and they asked why I wasn't fighting. Obviously, I told them the reason why. And then I was stood on by the weighing scales because I was weighing the boys in on the night, shouting at the weigh-in. And a young, well, I'd say young, but 20-ish he walked up to us and said, I don't want to fight. So we looked at him, what do you mean? He just drove 200 odd miles for this fight. What do you mean you don't want to fight? He said, it's too cold. That's the first I've ever heard of that, too cold to fight. So I said, what do you mean it's too cold to fight? He said, well, it's too cold for me. He said, I don't want to fight. So I said, right, if you don't want to fight, I can't make you get in there. Fair enough. So I said, who's your opponent? But I knew, looking at this guy, he was roughly around about my size. Pointed to his opponent. So I walked up to him and I said, if you're still up to fight, I haven't trained in 16 months. If you want me to jump on the scales, so be it. So he said, yeah, he said, if you're my weight, he said, I'm entitled to fight. I said, yeah, well, that's not a problem. So behind the scenes now, when I didn't know it, they already knew that this boy was going to pull out. Like on the day, they found out on the day he was going to pull out. But I was the replacement anyway. But I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got there and I've spoke to him and I've said, yeah, whatever. I weighed myself, weighed a little bit heavier than usual, but you know, yeah, weighed in, bang on actually the same weight. It was about a kilo between us. So it was nothing actually between us. And yeah, we actually got in and fought and they turned it to obviously I took my belts and whatnot, obviously because the fans and stuff like to see the pictures. And obviously because our gym, I like to take it for the youngsters in there to take pictures with. And they said, yeah, we'll turn it to the title fight, obviously, because the guy who I actually fought, he's experienced. And he was a very, very tricky opponent, actually. Believe it or not, he kept coming forward. And it was actually a good fight. Really, really enjoyed it. And if I could walk it over again, I would actually do it again. He did actually ask for a rematch because he actually thought he won. I don't know why. I think I won every round, hands down. So, yeah, if he actually wants to read it over again, we'll do it again.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, yeah, as I say, champ, absolutely cracking fight. It was, it was really something to watch. Absolutely back and forth, and all out action from, beginning to end. And obviously, I loved, when you won, when you jumped up on the ropes and all that sort of thing. That was a heck of a celebration. So it's brilliant. Really, yeah, really great energy though. And as you say, it's really good for the young fighters and everything who are there to see, what's possible, what they can achieve, and what have you. So definitely, it was good. Now, the only quick thing to mention with that fight before we move to the future and everything like that is that obviously you had defended your 2 belts there. But as I say, when I was there, and I know I had a photo with you as well and all that, you had 3 belts on,
Yeah.
and apparently there's a little story when we were planning for this. You said with the other one, so
yeah,
let's just have a quick mention as well.
Right. What it was, we had a boxing show, amateur, back in the day. And we had a boxing show by my sponsor. I had a sponsor with SERS, SERS, massive, massive company. And yeah, they took me on as a sponsor. I think I was like their first ever boxing sponsor. I think they sponsored like Formula One and massive sports.
Yeah.
So yeah, they took me on board and started sponsoring me. They bought me my own ring. They bought me my own canvas. And that's the canvas and ring we use on the night of the show. So yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the belt was for. I'll have to actually get in contact with my coach and see roughly what it actually was for. But I know there was some kind of meaning behind the belt. But the person I actually fought for the belt, it was his brother who I actually went to Finland with. I was just telling you about just a minute ago, from down towards Swansea way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually our own show. Well, it was basically my show. Everybody from the company who worked for SERS, they came in at a dinner show basically to come and watch me because obviously I was sponsored by them.
Yeah.
But it was an actual big event on. It was down in the Angel Hotel in Cardiff. It was.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
had Alan Minter, if you know Alan
Yeah.
Minter.
Oh
We
yeah.
had him there for a talk on the same night. Very good it was. Very, very good.
Amazing. Yeah, have a legend like that in there as well,
Yeah, nice
and
to meet an old legend and somebody
yeah,
who've actually been there and done it all.
yeah, yeah, to the highest level.
Yeah.
Incredible. Good stuff. So a couple more things then, because we've talked about different things with your fights and training and all different aspects of this. So I also want to look to the future because we spent a bit of time looking back and all that sort of thing, which is cool. But I believe the best is yet to come. For
Obviously.
yourself, and there's a lot of big fights on the horizon and all that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about what you're aiming for next. What obviously we know if any fighters pull out, we know you'll probably be there to jump in and
Or
everything. But
anybody want it at my weight, if it's any call outs, I'm there straight away. Anybody
yeah,
pull out, just give me a ring. I don't care if I got to travel or where I got to go. Just hit me up and I'll be there straight away. I won't back out of any fight.
brilliant.
Injury, no injury, I will still get in there.
Yeah,
It's just in me to fight, and I like fighting, and that's it.
yeah. In the blood, yeah, absolutely. But and also in terms of titles and things like that, though, I mean, what are your sort of aims now as well in terms of defending titles, winning more titles, anything else, along those lines, basically.
Yeah, I think you've got to defend your belts 4 times in it to keep them. So I've got another. I think I've got another one. No, another 2 on the Welsh belt. Another 1 on the Welsh belt. Another 2 on the British belt. I think it is. My next fight, hopefully, if it goes to plan, should have been for the EBL title.
Mm.
And that's the one that I'm going to want next. Is European, obviously. I've got the Welsh, got the British. Let's go for the European. There's
Yeah.
nothing saying that I can't do it. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to doing that. Obviously, there was actually talks of me actually going to do it before coronavirus hit and stop the plans.
Yeah. So some big plans on the horizon as well, which is good. Now, another quick thing I can see, obviously, and I've been looking on and off today when we've been talking about your Team Tyson shirt that you got on there as well, and I think that's brilliant. So, in terms of merchandise and everything like that, now, I mean, this one's off the cuff, isn't a question I planned, but I've just been looking at the shirt and all that. Is there a way people can sort of contact you to get hold of like your merchandise or something like that? I mean, is that part of
No, this is just actually one of my fight tops. This is. It's
Okay,
yeah, just one of the ones that I made up just for my first Welsh title fight. It was actually for.
yeah,
There's a picture of my dad on the back of it. Yeah, they had one for me and one for my partner. And obviously, if any of the boys actually wanted some, I could have actually done them, but I never had enough time at the time because obviously I was in and out of training, well, in and out of the gym, running, doing a lot of stuff at the time. So obviously, I didn't have enough time to be talking to people, ordering stuff, and everything else. If you
yeah.
get what I mean. So yeah, I just kept it towards myself at the time. I just thought, nah, I just sort myself out. If anybody wants anything afterwards, they're always free to ask, and like,
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, no, I've just been looking at it, and I didn't realize it's a fight top because it makes sense, but it looks sharp, like a proper, merchandise. Like,
yeah, it's a
because I
good
know
job. It's
yeah, some
actually
of
one of
those
my own
shirts.
designs. I designed it myself, actually.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, and something to think about doing the merch as well, because I know
Yeah.
some of the do really well. I know a few the bare knuckle lads who do really well out of selling their own t-shirts and all that sort of stuff. So, brilliant. So that's the future plans. Now, the only other thing I really want to touch on here is you mentioned sort of training. The young fighters and the fact when you're at the gym and everything like that, your coach gets you into to train with different people. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that, about advice for young fighters. And obviously, I know you're still young yourself and you still got a lot to go. But just in terms of the fact that you've reached, a higher level of the sport, and maybe for some of these young amateurs coming through, and they're just getting going, they think, maybe I could do something with boxing, maybe I can't, whatever. What would be some sort of key advice, that you'd give to maybe someone watching this who's like a youngster, young gun coming through, and they want to do something in boxing? Maybe
Just
just a couple of things.
they need to just believe in themselves. Obviously, like nothing is earned overnight.
Yeah,
Nothing. Everything takes hard work. Everything in life you've got to do hard work for. Mine took from the age of 7, maybe even less, to where I am now, and I'm still not perfect. I'm still learning every single day, and we'll never stop learning. Look at the likes of Floyd Mayweather; he's still learning now, and he's never
yeah,
lost.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they just need to keep themselves motivated. That's the biggest thing: motivation.
yeah,
They can keep motivating themselves every single day to get up and do the same thing continuous. Because don't forget, it does get boring because you're doing the same thing over and over. It's repetitive.
mm,
Every single day you got that run, you're going to the gym, you got to eat, you need your rest. You know what I mean? So it's just more or less the same thing every day, but it just gets repetitive and boring. But that's when you need to grip yourself down and think, right, do I want it or not? And the people who
yeah,
do want it, they're the ones who actually stick to it. And I don't know a lot of people actually from around this area who have actually done boxing and stuck to it. I think there's only like 3 or 4 of us. There's not many. And I'm going back from when I was amateur and there was boys in the gym then, before I was in there. None of them have stuck right through. I'm the longest serving person in my gym.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a powerful lesson. I mean, there's a lot of things you said there, and I could talk about each one, but as soon as that's the main one as well, yeah, it's very true. I mean, I had a friend I used to work with who was but this is a little bit off topic, very successful in business, so it's a little bit different. But he always used to say, those people that stick and stay, they get to pay, and he always used to say over and over. And at the time, I was thinking, well, but it makes total sense because discipline. And the other quote I always like, which I've seen online, is get it right or wrong, but it's was it hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard, and I think that says it all, because we've all seen really, really talented lads in the gym, whether they're amateur, pro, whatever, and they don't stick to it and they, drift into something else. And then you see people maybe they're a little bit less talented or whatever, and they outwork them. And
well, that's actually a good point actually, because I was mentioning actually Jared Burgess earlier on. He's the boy who actually trains with me, and I have never met a boy who works as hard as he does. And I was telling him actually the other day when I was speaking to him, I said, when you first come to the gym, he was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Couldn't even throw a punch, nothing. I mean, not expecting somebody to, they've just walked into a gym. But to see where he is now from when he first come, it's absolutely massive compared to where he was. But that have all come from hard work and keeping himself there, well driven he is. Well driven. He'll get up every single day, even after a fight, he'll still go out the next day and run.
Yeah.
Do you mean so about them little bits of things like that he's doing, it's keeping him ticking over?
Yeah.
And he knows he got that drive in him then to carry on doing it. And yeah, with myself, I was saying, like, I know I got skill. I got all the skill in the world in boxing.
Absolutely,
but I have not got as much hard work in me as he had. As much as Jared got. If I had the work ethic that he got in the gym, well, I'd be world class.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, Jared, if you're watching this, big respect, champ, and congrats on your last win as well. But yeah, just to say, champ, that's it's a good point, man. I mean, we've all seen it, but it's an interesting one. And when you combine hard work and the talent, that's when the magic happens. And I mean, I think you do that, but at the end, we can only ever judge ourselves. I don't think anyone else can really measure how well we're doing. But anyway, I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff. And we've covered some good topics. The last thing I wanna mention is the last one is obviously just to give a mention to, if you want to give a mention to any of your fans and supporters and the people watching this, sponsors as well, just anybody really who's been with you along.
Obviously, I'd like to thank my coaches, my boxing coach Ken, his brother who actually started when I first started with us, Darren, and Ian. They was very good. But obviously, I think it was where people kept coming in and out of the gym. I think one of the coaches lost a bit of love for the sport. Obviously, he had his bit of a favourites people. And when they went, I think his heart went with it. Yeah. And that's Ken's brother, that is. But yeah, very nice guy and a very good coach as well, he was. Yeah, big shout out to them three. My sister is another one as well I'd like to give a massive shout out to. She supported me right through my boxing career, who also was a very good boxer herself, Welsh champion. Yeah, she's there every fight. She didn't actually go to the last fight, and that's only because it was on short notice. I didn't know I was fighting until I was there. And I didn't want to ring her because obviously my partner was pregnant and she didn't know I was fighting. And I didn't want to tell my sister because obviously she would have told my partner and she would have started worrying.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's been very good through my boxing career, my sister. Yeah. Every fight I have, I like to have her there in my corner with me. She's very good.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's good to give some people a mention, because no man's an island at the end of the day. And even though with boxing, you have to be supremely disciplined, without that support from people and obviously everyone from the fans, sponsors, trainers, family, and whoever else, it's a very important thing to give them a quick shout out as well. But, champ, I think we've covered a lot. I will say to all of our viewers, keep an eye on this man. He's got some very big things coming up, I believe, very big fights on the horizon, and there's a lot yet to come. So, but champ, the last thing for me to do, mate, is just to say, big thank you for your time, and obviously appreciate you coming on the show, and yeah, just a big thank you. All right, then, mate. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.